Welcome to my channel. Learn English through story. Level 1. Always be good, so people will love you. Always work hard and do your best. These were the words of Black Beauty's mother to her son when he was only a young horse. At that time, they lived with Farmer Gray. But when Black Beauty got older, this was sometimes very difficult for him. Not everybody was as kind as Farmer Gray. Anna Sewell was born in Great Yarmouth, in Norfolk, England, in 1820. She had an accident when she was about 14 years old. After this she could not walk without help. Black Beauty was her only book. She wrote it because she loved horses. It hurt her when somebody was unkind to a horse. There were no cars or buses in those days. There were trains between the towns and cities. In town or in the country you walked, or used a horse. The horse carried you, or pulled you in a carriage, cart or bus. It brought milk, bread and other things to your house. There were many thousands of horses at work in Europe, America and other countries. Some worked for good, kind people, but some did not. Often the animals had to pull very heavy things, and they had to work for hours and hours. Anna Sewell knew this, and she wanted to tell other people. So she wrote her book. She was often ill, and in 1871 a doctor told her mother, "Anna has only 18 months now." Soon after this, Anna started writing her book. She finished it in 1877 and died in 1878, only a year after Black Beauty went into the bookshops. But many people were kinder to horses after they read Anna's book. My mother. I don't remember everything about the first months of my life. I remember a big field of green. My mother. I don't remember everything about the first months of my life. I remember a big field of green grass with 1 or 2 trees in it. On hot days my mother stood under a tree and I drank her milk. That was before I got bigger. Then I started to eat the grass. There were other young horses in the field. We ran and jumped round and round the field. We fell on our backs in the grass and kicked our legs happily. When I stopped drinking her milk, my mother went to work every day. Then, in the evening, I told her about my day. "I'm happy because you are happy," she said. "But remember, you aren't the same as these other young horses. They are going to be farm horses. They're good horses, but we are different. People know your father, and my father was Lord Westland's best horse. When you're older, you'll learn to carry people on your back. Or you'll take them from place to place in their carriages." "Is that your work, Mother?" I asked. "Do you do that for Farmer Gray?" "Yes," said my mother. "Farmer Gray sometimes rides me, and sometimes I pull his carriage. Here he is now." Farmer Gray came into the field. He was a good, kind man, and he liked my mother. "Well, my dear," he said to her, "here's something for you." He gave her some sugar. "And how is your little son?" He put a hand on my back and gave me some bread. It was very nice. We couldn't answer him. He put a hand on my mother's back, then he went away. "He's very kind," my mother said. "Always do your work happily. Never bite or kick. Then he'll always be nice to you." We ran and jumped round and round the field. Lessons. I got older and my coat started to shine. It was black, but I had 1 white foot, a white star on my face and some white on my back. When I was a big horse, Mr. Gordon came to me. He looked at my eyes, my mouth and my legs. "Very good," he said. "Very good. Now he'll have to learn to work. He'll be a very good horse then." "What does a horse have to learn?" "He learns not to move when a man puts a harness on him. Or when the man puts a bit into his mouth. A bit is a cold, hard thing, and it hurts. You can't move it. It stays in your mouth because the head harness goes over your head, under your mouth and across your nose. I wasn't happy with the bit in my mouth, but Farmer Gray was a kind man in every other way. I didn't bite or kick. My mother always had a bit in her mouth when she worked. Other horses have bits too, and I knew that. So I didn't move when they put it in. Soon it didn't hurt. The saddle wasn't as bad as the bit. Horses have to learn to have a saddle, and to carry a man, woman, or child on their backs. They have to walk, or to go a little faster. Or to go very fast. They put the bit in my mouth and the saddle on my back every day. Then Farmer Gray walked with me round the big field. After that, he gave me some good food and spoke to me. I liked the food and the kind words. I wasn't afraid now of the bit and the saddle. One day Farmer Gray got on my back and sat there in the saddle. The next day he rode me round the field. It wasn't very nice with a man in the saddle, but I was happy with my kind farmer on my back. He rode me in the field every day after that. The next bad thing were the shoes for my feet. These, too, were cold and hard. A man put them on me. Farmer Gray went with me, but I was afraid. The man took my feet in his hands. Then he cut away some of the hard foot. It didn't hurt me. I stood on 3 legs when he did the other foot. Then the man made shoes for my feet. It didn't hurt when he put them on. But I couldn't move my feet easily. But later I started to like the shoes, and the hard roads didn't hurt my feet. Next I learned to go in carriage harness. There was a very small saddle, but there was a big collar. Farmer Gray told me to pull a carriage with my mother. You'll learn a lot from her, he said, when he put the harness on me. I did learn. She showed me the way to move, and she taught me to listen to the driver. But there are good drivers and bad drivers, she said. And there are good people and bad people. Farmer Gray is kind, and he thinks about his horses. But some men are bad, or stupid. Always be good, so people will love you. Always work hard and do your best. Birtwick Park. In May a man came and took me away to Mr. Gordon's home at Birtwick Park. Be a good horse, Farmer Gray said to me, and work hard. I couldn't say anything, so I put my nose in his hand. He put a hand on my back and smiled kindly. Birtwick Park was big. There was a large house. And there were a lot of stables for horses, and places for many carriages. I went to a stable for 4 horses. They gave me some food, and then I looked round. There was a horse near me in the stable. He was small and fat, with a pretty head and happy eyes. Who are you? I asked. My name is Merrylegs, he said. I'm very beautiful. I carry the girls on my back. Everybody loves me. You are living in this stable with me, so you will have to be good now. I hope you don't bite. A horse looked at Merrylegs from across the stable. She had a very beautiful red-brown coat, but she had angry eyes. She put her ears back. Did I bite you? She asked angrily. No, no. Merrylegs said quickly. When the red-brown horse went out to work that afternoon, Merrylegs told me about her. Ginger does bite, he said. One day she bit James in the arm and hurt him. Miss Flora and Miss Jessie, Mr. Gordon's little girls, are afraid of her. They don't bring me nice food now, because Ginger is here. Why does she bite? I asked. Is she bad? Oh, no. I think she was very unhappy. She says, nobody was kind to me before I came here. She'll change here. I'm 12 years old, and I know about life. There isn't a better place for a horse than this, anywhere. John is the best groom in the country and James is the kindest boy. Mr. Gordon is a very nice man. Yes, Ginger will change here. I begin well. The head groom's name was John Manley. He lived with his wife and one little child in a very small house near the stables. The next morning he took me outside the stable and groomed me. He worked hard, and he made my coat clean and beautiful. Then Mr. Gordon came and looked at me. "He looks very good," he said. "I wanted to try him this morning, but I have some other work." "You ride him, John, and then tell me about him." John put a saddle on my back, but it was too small. He changed it. He got another saddle, not too big and not too small, and we went out. He was a very good rider and I understood his words. On the road we walked, then we went faster. I wanted him to like riding me. Then he took me away from the road to some open fields with 1 or 2 trees and a lot of grass. There he wanted me to go very fast, and I did. It was good, I liked it. I think John liked it, too. When we were at Birtwick Park again, Mr. Gordon asked John Manley, "Well, John, how does he go?" "He's very good," said John. "Isla loves going fast. He understands you. Nobody was unkind to him when he was young. So he isn't afraid of anybody or anything." "Good," Mr. Gordon said. "I will ride him tomorrow." The next day, John groomed me and put the saddle on me. Then he took me from the stables to the house. I remembered my mother's words and I tried to make Mr. Gordon happy with me. He was a very good rider, and he was kind to me. His wife was at the door of the big house when he finished riding. "Well, my dear," she said, "how do you like him?" "He's black and very beautiful," said Mr. Gordon. "What can we call him?" "We can call him Black Beauty," said his wife. "Black Beauty, yes, said Mr. Gordon. "I think that's a very good name." John came and took me to the stables. "We've got a name for him, John," said Mr. Gordon. My wife thought of it. "He's going to be Black Beauty." John was very happy. "Come with me, my Black Beauty," he said. "You are a beauty, and it's a good English name." John put a saddle on my back, but it was too small. He changed it. I got another saddle, not too big and not too small, and we went out. He was a very good rider and I understood his words. On the road we walked, then we went faster. I wanted him to like riding me. Then he took me away from the road to some open fields with 1 or 2 trees and a lot of grass. There he wanted me to go very fast, and I did. It was good, I liked it. I think John liked it, too. When we were at Birtwick Park again, Mr. Gordon asked John Manley, "Well, John, how does he go?" "He's very good, said John. "He loves going fast. He understands you. Nobody was unkind to him when he was young. So he isn't afraid of anybody or anything." "Good," Mr. Gordon said. "Till ride him tomorrow." The next day, John groomed me and put the saddle on me. Then he took me from the stables to the house. I remembered my mother's words and I tried to make Mr. Gordon happy with me. He was a very good rider, and he was kind to me. His wife was at the door of the big house when he finished riding. "Well, my dear," she said, "how do you like him?" "He's black and very beautiful," said Mr. Gordon. "What can we call him?" "We can call him Black Beauty," said his wife. "Black Beauty, yes, said Mr. Gordon. "I think that's a very good name." John came and took me to the stables. "We've got a name for him, John," said Mr. Gordon. My wife thought of it. "He's going to be Black Beauty." John was very happy. "Come with me, my Black Beauty," he said. "You are a beauty, and it's a good English name." My new friends. John liked me. I was a very good groom, and my black coat always shone beautifully. He looked at my feet every day. He knew when one of them hurt. Then he put something onto it. He often talked to me. I didn't know every word, but I soon understood him. I liked John Manley more than anybody. I liked the stable boy, James Howard, too. John taught him to be kind to horses, and he helped John to groom me. After 2 or 3 days, I pulled a carriage with Ginger. I was afraid of her. She put her ears back when they took me across to her. But she didn't move when they harnessed me next to her. John drove us, and we worked very well. Ginger worked well. She pulled as hard as me, and she also liked going more quickly. Many horses only go fast when the driver hits them with his whip. Ginger and I went fast when the driver wanted us to go fast. We went as fast as we could. John didn't like the whip, and he never whipped us. We worked hard for him. After Ginger and I went out 2 or 3 times with the carriage, we were good friends. We liked little Merrylegs very much. He was never afraid and always happy. Mr. Gordon's little girls loved riding him, and they were never afraid. Mrs. Gordon loved all 3 of us, and we loved her. Mr. Gordon liked his people to have 1 day without work every week. His horses also had a day without work. On Sunday they took us to a field of good grass, and we stayed there all day, without reins or harness. We ran and jumped. We played, and we were happy. Then we stood under some trees and told stories. James Howard. Mr. Gordon came to the stables one day and spoke to John Manley. "How is James working, John?" he asked. "Very well," John answered. "He learns quickly. He is kind to the horses, and the horses like him. He's learning to drive, and he'll soon be a good driver." Then James came in. James. Mr. Gordon said, "I have a letter from my friend, Sir Clifford Williams of Clifford Hall. He wants to find a good young groom. He pays well, and the young man will soon be head groom. He will have a room, stable clothes and driving clothes, and boys will help him. I don't want to lose you, and John will be sad." "I will." "Yes, I will," John said. "But I won't try to stop him." "Yes, we'll all be sad," Mr. Gordon said. "But we want you to do well, James. Do you want to go? Speak to your mother at dinner time, James, and then give me your answer. Then I can tell Sir Clifford." Ginger and Merrylegs and I were sad, too, when we heard James's answer. He wanted to go. But it was a better job for him. We knew that. For 6 weeks before James went, we worked hard. He wanted to be a very good driver, and Mr. Gordon and John Manley wanted to help him. So the carriage went out every day. Ginger and I pulled it, and James drove. James learnt very quickly. For the first 3 weeks John sat next to him, but after that James drove without him. One day in autumn, after 2 or 3 days of heavy rain, Mr. Gordon wanted John to take him to the city. There was a strong wind that day. We came to the river. The water was very high under the bridge, and there was water across the fields. We arrived without a problem. But it was late in the afternoon before we started for home again. The wind was stronger now, and it made noise in the trees. Suddenly, one of the trees fell across the road with a crash. I was afraid, but I didn't run away. John jumped out of the carriage and came to me. "We can't go past the tree," John said to Mr. Gordon. "We'll have to go on the other road to the bridge. It's a longer road and we'll be late." But the horse isn't tired. It was nearly dark when we arrived at the bridge. We could see water on it. This sometimes happened when the river was high. I started to walk across the bridge, but I stopped. Something was wrong. I could feel it. "Move, Beauty," said Mr. Gordon. I didn't move, and he put the whip across my back. "Go now," he said. But I didn't go. "There's a problem," said John. He jumped down from the carriage and tried to move me. "What's the problem, Beauty?" he asked. There was a house across the bridge, and a man ran out of the door. "Stop! Stop!" he shouted. "The bridge is breaking in the middle. Don't come across it, or you'll fall in the river." John looked at me and smiled. "Thank you, Beauty," he said. We went home on a different road. It was late when we got home. Mrs. Gordon ran out of the house. "You're late," she said. "Did you have an accident?" "We nearly did," said her husband. "But Beauty is cleverer than us." "I have to go to the city again," Mr. Gordon often said. And we always went when there were a lot of carriages and riders on the road. People were on their way to the train, or they were on their way home across the bridge after work. Then one day Mr. Gonian said to John, "Millie, Mrs. Gordon and I have to go to Oxford tomorrow. We'll have Ginger and Black Beauty with the big carriage, and James will drive us." It was a journey of about 75 kilometers to Oxford. We went about 50 kilometers in one day and then we stopped for the night at the biggest hotel in Aylesbury. James drove very well. We pulled the carriage up and down, and he always stopped on the way up. He never drove us fast when we went down. We had to go quickly when the road was good, but not on bad roads. These things help a horse. And when he gets kind words, too, he is happy. They groomed us in the hotel stable, and gave us some good food. James said, "Good night, my beauties. Sleep well, Ginger. Sleep well, Black Beauty." Then he went to his bed.